in Iran, south of Tehran, south of the capital. There's a holy place that's known as Bibi Shahranu. I'll put the graphic up so you can look at the way it's spelled, because I'm probably saying it wrong. Anyway, Bibi Shahranu is a holy place that Persian Shia women gather, and they pray to Allah, and they cry, and they pray for forgiveness, and they pray for healing, and they pray for their families, and they pray for gifts and favors from Allah. This shrine is the supposed burial place of Princess Shahranu, and this princess was the daughter of the last king of Persia, and she married Aman Hussein, who is the fourth Aman of Shia religion. This is symbolic, and this is symbolic holy place, and this is symbolic of the marriage between old Persia and what is Persia and what is Iran today, and Shiism. And I'm going to get into that, and I think everybody needs to understand that the identity of what Iran is, the identity is almost impossible to separate from Shiism, much in the same way that liberty and individuality is tied to being American, or how community and how the society as a whole is important in many Eastern countries. We as a people, whether we're American, Iranian, Saudi Arabian, which is tied to Wahhabism and Sunniism, it's very important to know that the government is a reflection of the people. And I'm not saying that all the people in Iran believe that they should be under a theocracy. At the same time, I defy you to find many Persians, many Iranians, that don't identify themselves with Shias, with the exception of some of the minority groups, the Azerbaijanis and some of the Sunnis that live there as well, but they're very small. What constitutes the policy of that country is tied to Shiism. And I'm going to get into why that's important. I'm going to do my best in the next 5 minutes or so to give you an understanding of why Shiism and the rise of Shia influence on the Middle Eastern region is going to literally mold the identity of the Middle East over the next 2 or 3 generations at least, maybe further. There's a guy named Vali Nasser, and this is a book. It's called The Shia Revival. It's copyrighted 2006, but pick up a copy that's also copyrighted 2007, because he adds some stuff to it that's more relevant to what's going on in Iraq today, that not necessarily he missed. It's just developments have made him update his book. It's a good book. Pick it up if you're interested in. It's something I just finished reading today, in fact, and it's an easy read. It's pretty complex, but it's an easy read. Anyway, there's a growing concern among Arab leaders, influential Arab leaders in the Middle East, that the buffer, Iraq was the buffer. It was run by a minority Sunni group, that it was the buffer between Iran and the rest of Saudi Arabia from spreading its Shia influence. And you have to understand that when I say Shiism is tied to the identity of Iran, Iran is also tied to the identity of Shiism. Okay, so they play this little game, alright? So you have the Arab nationalists, okay, Saudi Arabia and such, using their influence and money. This is one of the games they play. They use their influence and money by buying Arabic Shia governments. For instance, just recently Iraq and Saudi Arabia announced that Saudi Arabia was going to excuse Iraq of its $15 to $18 billion worth of debt that it owed the kingdom, and it was it was Saudi Arabia's way of buying influence in a Shia-dominated parliament in Iraq. Now, the interesting thing is the media very much lets us think that the fact that the majority of Shias have the parliament, that Iran's influence is automatic. And that's not necessarily true. And the Saudis and Jordanians and Egyptians and other Sunni leaders in the region realize that the Shias in Iraq do not see, the Arab Shias in Iraq do not see eye to eye with Tehran and the Imam and the theocracy in Iran. They just don't. And helping sway them is through simple cash and propaganda. They did the same thing in Beirut and Lebanon, where they backed with lots of money a Shia prime minister who was fairly kind and more Arabic national. Now, the Iranians, what they do the same thing. They throw all kind of money at Hezbollah and throw all kind of money at the southern Shias to help fight against the Ba'ath Sunni group and the foreign Al-Qaeda group, and there's some other groups in there. Islamic Brotherhood has some groups in there as well. I mean, basically they're like Saudi Arabia's little guerrilla fighters that are going to go make sure things won't the transition won't be easy for the Shias, and they're ever present. So what goes on is Iran supplies Hezbollah with military apparatus, and Syria with military apparatus and with money to try to gain their influence, and the Saudis in turn do the same thing. And so it becomes a money battle. Now that's one of the weapons that both of them use, and then they use certain kinds of propaganda. For instance, the Saudis and Jordanian monarchy and the leaders with influence in the region have a tendency, the Sunni have a tendency to try to use Arab nationalism to unite people against Iran, and Iran uses a pan-Islamic approach. It's an approach that it doesn't matter. We're all Muslims, and you should transcend nationalism and ethnicity and clan loyalty and sectarian loyalty, and it should be an Islamic loyalty. So those are the games that both sides play, and there are weapons in each arsenal. Here are some of the weaknesses that the Arabs have. Part of the weakness that the Arab League and the Arab nationalists have is basically their defense in the Middle East. As weird as this is Western military powers, the United States, Great Britain, and their allies, which are funded by the Japanese, and it's a very complex alliance, but it's a pretty powerful alliance, and the Arabs realize that is their defense against Persia. Well, that's quite a weakness. Now, I mean, the United States just recently gave a whole bunch of different military apparatus, all of which, is classified, to my understanding, and everything I've read on Stratfor and some of the other intelligence reports that you can find online. It's still pretty fuzzy, the kind of military apparatus we gave the Saudi Arabians. But there's concern from the Saudis of Shia influence even in Saudi Arabia, because even though they're a small minority, the Shias live amongst the richest oil fields in Saudi Arabia. And don't think for a second, as Saudi Arabia funds insurgents in Iraq to fight the Shia influence, that Iran is also arming and funding the Shia in Iraq to fight the Sunni influence. And don't think for a second those Shias that live in South Iraq and those Shias that live in Kuwait and those Shias that live in Saudi Arabia, don't think amongst them there aren't fundamentalists that are willing to take their pot shots at the kingdom.